So, humans agreed with aliens to allow human abductions?
Ah, okay. You like to speak of it. Yes and no. It's a difficult one to speak about because it is multifaceted in the sense that we have to remember at the core of every story, of every circumstance, there is a soul plan.
We gave permission.
That a human belongs to.
We gave permission.
So at some form, beyond the physical, the excitement of these storylines was part of their journey. But on the other side, from the third dimensional angle, it very much looks like humans took control of other humans, because that has been part of the human experience experiment.
Right.
But we have to say that their complacency in their own being created this scenario. So they became very lazy spiritually, completely disconnected from their knowledge that they are from source. And they handed over willingly the responsibility for their well-being and their thought processes to another human being. And therefore this would naturally create what looks like the circumstance of being controlled against their will. But they did not use their will and do not. So it is the natural part of that process. But somehow, some way, some other beings who have a propensity towards power and control will use these human beings that do not want to take responsibility for themselves, their well-being, their mind, their reality.
So they're not in conscious choice, so they're not exercising their free will, they're just letting things happen to them.
Yes, they're just letting it happen.
I had a couple friends that were abducted, and they felt like that they didn't have free will, that they couldn't say no.
That was more reflective of what their physical Earth life was like,
right,
than the abduction itself. And it was probably part of their plan as to how to get them to be self-responsible again, how to trigger and be a catalyst for self-awareness.
So
many of the people that are so-called controlled are using that experience to bring themselves back into self-control, self-government. But they have willingly given over control of themselves. And they are using this experience to experience what it's like to be far away from what we would call sovereignty.
So some are taken etherically in an energy, like you said with me, like I was taken like energetically. And some are taken actually physically and brought back, and then some are taken physically and not brought back?
Yes, there is a whole mixture of abductions. And at any time, the human can change the scenario.
Right.
They do not know it because they have not connected to their inner power.
By saying no?
By saying no, but by saying no to things in their everyday life.
What my understanding
The
was,
two are deeply connected.
right, by being in your power in your regular life.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And my understanding was with my friend that was abducted that she was afraid, and I thought, well, if they made her afraid, then in fear she wouldn't have exercised her free will.
There is more complexity to these circumstances than anything being as straightforward as that.
I understand.
It was her agreement, her soul agreement.
Right.
And she was in an awareness before she was in the body that she would not necessarily remember the agreement, and it was too exciting.
Right. Well, this is just human terminology, but it drove her crazy. She lost her mind.
Yes, that was part of her journey. This was not a surprise to her soul, so to speak.
Right.
And when a human appears to lose one's mind, it just means that they've stayed in other realms, other dimensions.
Right.
But they are still partially connected to their physical body. And what happens on your planet, very strangely, is that other humans cluster around and keep that body alive and keep it from danger and do not let it naturally remove itself in the way of death or
right, because she was fascinated with suicide, and she was a cutter. I had to babysit her once, even though she's older than me.
This is exactly what we are saying.
Right.
This was her soul, her intelligence, knowing that she wanted to leave that body, but as we said, other humans get attached to the form of that body, thinking that it will die and that will be the end of the person, but she was already gone, and there were just the fragments enough to run the body left that knew that it was time to offload the body, but all the other humans around, with their beliefs and their fears and their fear of death, kept her alive.
So her guides helped her to manifest an instant death, because she was then in a car accident and died.
They realised there was only one way, because the other ways were all stopped.
Right.
She needed to transition from that body fully so that she could be where she truly wished to be, in another dimension, in another experience.
Right.
And yes, it's a weird thing to see from a third dimensional viewpoint that is attached to death in a somber way.
But she was kind of attached to this life too, right? Because after she died, she messed with people energetically.
They kept her energy connected to them. She did not do this. They did that with the energy. This is very difficult to explain.
Right. It was their own guilt. It was their own energy attached to it.
It was their own energy that they created in her form.
Right.
She did not do any of that.
Okay.